I guess my way of looking at the world is very much shaped by the fact that I grew up right after the war in a city that was completely flattened. As a kid, you take it for granted that that's what the world looks like. So the first look at a different world was paintings. That was the alternative to everything I knew.
While Wim Wenders' works are typically recognized for their attention to travel and landscapes, a great deal of visual and narrative character can be attributed to the cities in which his stories reside. Wenders' unique ability to craft a story from a city adds a layer of authenticity to his storytelling. Alice in the Cities, Paris, Texas, and Perfect Days exhibit differing approaches to the city which not only reflect Wenders' unique perspective of foreign settings as a European, but also speak to his ability to connect his characters to each city setting in a way that speaks to the importance of human connection to and within the physical environment.
And of course, for Alice, that was the first time I was able to actually shoot in America. That little film, Alice in the Cities, was a way for me to discover that there was a genre where I could feel like a fish in the water and on the road traveling and stopping wherever I saw something that I liked and then we invent a scene there.
Alice in the Cities follows journalist Philip Vinter traveling city to city after a young girl named Alice is unexpectedly left in his care. After his trip with Alice, Philip feels that he can reapproach his formerly uninspired article on the American landscape. Philip's relationship with America and Europe as he traverses both reflects Wenders' own perspective on the States. Marinello Silvestro writes about this unique lens in Experience and Memory in the Films of Wim Wenders by coining the term Amerip, which refers to the encounters between the American landscape and a European gaze replete with memory. Philip represents the German perspective of the United States, where the assignment from his publisher to write about the American landscape forces him to face it. His initial attempts at journalistic inspiration, the Polaroids throughout his trip, seem to be missing something. The camera either captures a lonely emptiness or a space bombarded with consumerism. His dissatisfaction with his trip works in tandem with his feelings of being lost. At the beginning of the film, Philip is characterized by lack of sense of place, the difficulty of establishing relationships, strangeness in relation to the landscape, and a feeling of being a foreigner anywhere. Both Alice and his camera act as mediators between himself and his environment within every city that they visit, slowly allowing him to connect with the space that he is in. The act of crossing borders between cities mirrors the crossing of emotional identity borders. Philip's personal growth matches his environment and recognition of the surrounding cityscapes. As Philip's trip with Alice allows him to open up to her, Alice in the Cities finds resolution, ending with Philip telling Alice that he plans to finish his article on the American landscape. With Alice and his camera as mediators, the human connection he gains, and his success in navigating through Amsterdam, Wuppertal, and Ruhr, allow him to make amends with the landscape he formerly felt disdain for. Paris, Texas begins with the reunification of Travis with his brother and his son. After having disappeared for 4 years, Travis slowly re-enters his son's life as he tries to find the whereabouts of his missing wife. Calling back to Silvestro's idea of a Amerip, the contrasting cultural images in the name Paris, Texas, illustrate Wenders' nuanced perspective. Paris, a name highly charged with history and culture, appears in the cultural unreality of Texas. Juxtaposing the two emphasizes the bleak American reality that Travis must navigate. Travis's purchase of land in Paris, Texas, the place where he believes he was conceived, establishes a connection between his self-understanding and his place of conception. To find himself, he is drawn to a barren city because of seeming personal relevance. The desolate space of Terlingua, Texas, the bustling and vibrant life of Los Angeles, and the despair of Houston all reflect Travis's state of mind as he comes to terms with his own life. Terlingua, a place barren and unknown to seemingly everyone, pairs well with Travis's catatonic state of amnesia. For Los Angeles, Travis's sudden re-entry into suburban life and the lives of his brother and son are reflected in the bustling city, a spitting image of the American dream Travis once yearned for. Houston becomes a mix of these feelings, as his travels and encounters feel overwhelming, lonely, harmful, and helpful all at the same time. The varying population and architecture of each location not only reflect the re-entrance of people into Travis's life, but also the clarity and closure that comes with Travis's acquisition of information. Visually, the alternating landscapes between each city tell a story of its own.
the film was never fictional and never documentary. It was always both at the same time. And that was a dream come true for me.
Set in Tokyo, Japan, Perfect Days follows the basic tasks of Hirayama, a toilet cleaner in the city. Hirayama's solitary and specific schedule is interrupted by the unexpected arrival of his niece. Hirayama's connection to the city of Tokyo goes beyond his obligations as a government employee. His entire schedule meanders through the architecture of the city, with each establishment that he routinely visits being an essential piece of himself and of the city. One unique trait of the film explains exactly how Wenders crafted such a deep bond between a man and his city. The film originally started as a series of short films of the public bathrooms in Tokyo for the 2020 Summer Olympics, which Wenders later decided to make into a feature-length film. From the inspiration of Tokyo's architecture, Wenders builds the character of Hirayama. Since the setting never leaves the city of Tokyo, unlike Wim Wenders' films on the road that focus on travel, acute and special attention is dealt to the inner workings of Hirayama's symbiotic relationship to Tokyo. In similar fashion to Ozu films, the attention to space and location makes Hirayama's presence within and contribution to the city an essential connection worthy of a feature-length treatment. Hirayama's life appears rather simple, but his attachment to the city and the friendships it facilitates fill the film's runtime with a vibrant sense of community and belonging. Wim Wenders uses the city as a visual and narrative tool for reflection and mediation on a character. Each film is shaped by the cities in focus. Alice in the Cities and Perfect Days are shot in a 4:3 aspect ratio to cradle the characters and the height of their city, whereas the aspect ratio of Paris, Texas is wider to display the vast loneliness of Travis's journey. Across the uniquely different perspectives of each film, setting is never an afterthought in the films of Wim Wenders. The unique prioritization of setting in his storytelling creates a new reflexive relationship between the city and the character, where geographical landscape and state of mind can interact with one another.